Since I started Studio in a Box in 2011, one of the things that I have felt so passionate about is helping future studio owners avoid some of the most common and costly mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes I have seen over and over and over again from people that have opened studios on their own is normally lease negotiations. It could be a number of things, but here's just a few of the things that I've seen that have dramatically affected someone's ability to be profitable with their studio. Number one is not having appropriate renewal terms. Basically, that just means not having things in place to make sure that you're protected during the renewal of your lease at the end of your first term. Number two is overpaying rent. A lot of times people get really emotionally attached to a particular location and they don't necessarily choose properly. By taking a step back and having someone that's a third party helping you identify the best location for the best price and really looking at the pros and the cons, you'll often find that you will save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars each year in just this one mistake. Number three is being responsible for really large expenses that are normally borne by the landlord. This I've actually seen once, and I'm going to tell you this story in a minute, but just imagine one little thing that you've done wrong in your lease that costs you $150,000 or more in bad expenses. Number four is unusual maintenance costs. A lot of times, if you're negotiating your lease, you maybe don't have the experience. And a lot of times a landlord has put all of these different things in their 35 and 50-page lease documents. And they're there knowing that you're probably not going to catch them. And I probably have a list, I'm guessing, of about 10 things that I've seen in multiple lease documents where someone has made a huge mistake and been left with very large costs that should not have been theirs. And then number five is atypical tax costs of the landlord. And this is another one that is often buried inside the lease and you don't think about it and you don't worry about it, but I will tell you, I've once seen a tax bill handed to a tenant for, I'm thinking it was something like $25,000 or $30,000 of unanticipated expenses because of the way this lease was written. This past year, I had one particular client. Her name was Diane, and she reached out to hire me after she had already negotiated her lease. The problem was that this was literally the worst lease I had ever seen. The landlord had saddled her with a series of annual expenses that weren't typical, but worse than that, they didn't give her any building concessions and they charged her a bunch of expenses and fees that should have been borne by the landlord and the landlord alone. So one of the things that we normally do in Studio in a Box is we're really looking to work with our clients to make sure that we're protecting your interests and that you're taking advantage of all of the things and all of the experience that we've had in other businesses. Well, in this case, she not only didn't get that $20,000 to $30,000 in concessions, she ended up with over $150,000 in build out and startup expenses that should not have been hers. By the time she reached out, it was too late. She'd already negotiated the lease. She hadn't signed it yet. But the landlord, once we pointed out all of the things that were wrong with the lease, he said, "Sorry, you've already negotiated your deal. It's too late." Well, I will tell you that this one particular person is going to really struggle in her business for years to come. Even if she makes the best decisions going forward, this one series of mistakes is going to follow her for the life of her business. So, just want you to think about all of those things that you could potentially do right or potentially do wrong. Our goal with Studio in a Box is to give you the guidance and to give you the experience that we've had with other studio owners without the $50,000 upfront franchise fees and with no annual ongoing expenses. Once you get your doors open, you never owe us another dime or another penny. Our goal is to give you all the tools that you need to run a super successful studio on your own. If you have any questions, please click below. We look forward to talking to you soon.